Floaty Goaty Lore, Volume 2, Chapter 13, Jittleyang or Fuhulatoogan. It has been a year since Floaty Goaty and Uncle Ben went missing, and Uncle Ben has been well acquainted with the Fuhulatoogans. He is now a big part of the Fuhulatoogan army and is preparing for the Fuhulatoogan Jittleyang War. Hashi and the rest of the gang were exploring the universe to find Ben and Floaty Goaty. Hashi eventually led the gang back to planet Fuhulatoogan. However, the rocket had traveled so far that it had completely run out of fuel. Just before reaching the entrance to the planet, the rocket fell down. Hashi jumped down and exploded the rocket from below, launching everyone upwards to the entrance of the planet. Everyone was accepted as Fuhulatoogans and made their way to Uncle Ben. He was so happy to see them after so long, but also worried because he didn't know if they were ready for the upcoming war. So he did the only thing that could help him in this situation. He explained everything that had happened in the year the gang was gone. In that year, he had helped the king prepare, built strong weapons to help in battle, made super strong armor for the army to wear, and made it basically impossible for Jittleyangs to win. But there was no more time to explain. The war started in 5 minutes. A futuristic bridge connected the planets, and everyone took their positions, including the gang. As soon as it was time, both armies charged at each other, and it immediately looked like Fuhulatoogans were winning. But the Jittleyangs had also been preparing. They also had strong weapons and armor, but the gang would be able to beat them easily. They had battled stronger armies. So Hashi jumped in and used his Beak of Kevin and Foot of Wog against the Jittlyangs. And it killed a lot of them. So many, in fact, that the Jittleyang king had to bring out his strongest weapon. He shot out a giant arrow at the Fuhulatoogans that killed many troops. But two can play at that game. The Fuhulatoogan king did not use his strongest weapon, which was a nuke, just yet, because that would end the war too soon. However, the king did use his second strongest option. He used a giant hammer that smacked the planet, causing many Jittleyangs to be crushed. He figured he could keep using that attack since it wasn't a one-time use, and the Jittleyangs would be defeated. The Jittleyang king said that it was cheating, but the Fuhulatoogan king replied with, "This is war. There's no such thing as cheating." The Fuhulatoogan king then proceeded to flip the hammer upside down, causing the Jittleyang king to be hit from below and get flung into the sky, followed by the entire gang using their strongest attack on the king, sending him flying in an unknown direction. However, the Fuhulatoogans knew he did not die, as the other Jittleyangs would have died. The Jittleyangs were furious that their king was now gone, and they started to fight back. The war continued for days until a worried Fuhulatoogan reported to the king that the great comet of Queso was back. This was a comet orbiting far away from Queso that only came by planet Fuhulatoogan every millennium, and when it did come back, it meant the two planets must do the impossible. This means in just a few hours, Queso could come by and eat their planets, so they had to work together for the first time in 1,000 years. The Fuhulatoogan king chose Uncle Ben to be co-leader and took everyone with him to evacuate and search for why Queso may have wanted to come over to the planets. That's when the Fuhulatoogan king received a phone message from the Jittleyang king, saying, "I know we're sworn enemies, but you might want to come check this out." He then sent his universal coordinates and told him to meet him there. On their way, they saw Queso in the distance eating some planets. If he got to the Jittleyang and Fuhulatoogan planets, the entire army was doomed. Hashi used the Beak of Kevin on Queso, launching him back to delay his attack. The army headed forward and started working their way to Jittleyang King's coordinates. However, he was friends with Hashi. Wait, what? No. On their way, they encountered Komar Gaming, a well-known merchant with insane prices. However, he was friends with Hashi, so the gang got a 0.01% discount. He wasn't selling anything useful, so he teleported back to his home and would come back later. When the gang arrived at the Jittleyang King's location, he was at planet Super Sigma, and so was Floaty Goaty. They were staring at a giant statue of the Fuhulatoogan and the Jittleyang. This statue held the multi-quadrillion-year-old connection between Jittleyangs and Fuhulatoogans. The statue was, however, breaking due to the constant conflict between them. The gang and both of the armies decided to head towards the statue. There they would meet two well-known heroes corrupted by the evil plasma, Red Larva and Charlie the Steak. Their minds had been corrupted by the plasma and went after the gang. Floaty Goaty tried using the Power Stone, but it ricocheted off and carved a hole in the Jittleyang army. Hashi likewise used the Beak of Kevin, but it didn't work. The Foot of Wog was no use either. Any punches used on them would just hurt the inflictor. The power of the plasma was getting too strong. If this plasma were to get too far out, the entire multiverse would be destroyed. Floaty Goaty used his artifact to destroy them, but it reflected off. Everyone tried to use their powers against them. Alex jumped on their heads with immense force. Mark used his shockwave. Midnight used her karate. Jeeton used his waterbending. Pilgor his staff. Rim and Tyson their Japanese magic. Phoenix his magma ball. Hashi and Uncle Ben their weapons. And Floaty Goaty the power stone and the artifact again. Nothing worked. Floaty Goaty then realized that in order to defeat them, they must use all their attacks at once. Floaty Goaty counted down from 3 and the heroes crumbled to pieces. The artifact then rose up to the sky and started spinning out of control. It lit up bright enough to be a new sun. It then doubled its power and added 2 new stones. It brought the heroes back to life and they joined the gang. With this power, the evil plasma would be destroyed. Floaty Goaty explained to them what they were doing with the Jittleyang and Fuhulatoogans. They happily joined them, but then Floaty Goaty realized that he had left Jittleyang and Karen behind. He left the gang to find them and told them to go on without them. He told Hashi to call him if danger appeared. The gang moved forward into the statue and looked through the pictures down the hallway. The pictures showed how the Jittleyangs and Fuhulatoogans used to be good friends. The Jittleyang king exclaimed, "Impossible!" Everyone rolled their eyes. Hashi led the gang forward, and they watched as slowly the pictures turned from friendship to alliance to acquaintances to fighting to sworn enemies. And that led to today. A book appeared at the end of the hallway on a lectern. Hashi led the gang towards the book and opened it. He read it out loud. This is a message sent down from the first Fuhulatoogan king. The planets of Jittleyang and Fuhulatoogan are in grave danger. I am incredibly disappointed in your hatred for each other. However, you must come together in order to fight these beasts. The evil plasma has gotten too far. You must work together to build a force field to protect our sacred planets. I'm granting you both the best of luck. You'll need it. Hashi was bewildered, but interrupting everything towards the back of the group, a cube of evil plasma struck the statue and destroyed it. The planets started to crumble far away, except none of them knew it. In the mess, whilst trying to fix the statue, Hashi uncovered the dead bodies of Charlie the Steak, Red Larva, and Rim. The artifact started shaking. 3 stones disappeared off of the artifact. The gang was devastated, Tyson especially. He had lost a dear friend. Phoenix was also sad. He had discovered his powers in Rim's temple. Hashi shook off his sadness and took off for revenge. Everyone attacked the plasma out of sheer anger and adrenaline. They destroyed the entire cube of plasma. They headed towards where Floaty Goaty and the Jittleyang king were found, and they said their sad goodbyes. The Jittelyangs and Fuhulatoogans headed back to their planets in preparation for the plasma and started their force field. That was the last time the gang would ever see them. Hashi shed a tear, but they got back into the rocket to search for Floaty Goaty, who was still searching for Jittleyang and Karen. They looked around for hours until they found a purple planet surrounded by plasma with a giant statue in the middle containing huge plasma wearing a crown. They had 3 floating jail cells around the statue, and inside them were Jittleyang, Karen, and Floaty Goaty, sound asleep. The gang immediately started to head there. On their way, they found out that the rocket was immune to plasma, so they turned on the full cover windshield and entered the planet.